If you asked me 3 months ago what my life looked like, I would have told you it was stable. Not perfect, but stable. That's how I liked it. The kind of stable that comes with 2 cups of morning coffee brewed without a word, the same Netflix shows queued up night after night, and Brittany tossing her gym bag onto the kitchen chair like she always did before heading out to her 6:30 spin class. Routine. Reliable. Predictable. Like a well-oiled piece of machinery that you never have to think about. Until you hear a strange rattle and the whole damn thing breaks down. My name's Liam Donnelly, 38. Sales manager at a regional auto dealership here in Cincinnati. Not the most glamorous gig, but I do all right. I'm the guy who'll give you a decent deal on a used truck, talk football with you, maybe throw in a free oil change just because I like your face. I've worked the same job for 11 years, paid off my house early, and never missed a birthday or anniversary. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't go to an Ivy League school, but I worked my way up, saved, played by the rules. And Brittany? She was my reward, I guess. At least, that's what everyone said. I met her at a wedding, my buddy Cal's second marriage. She was there on the bride's side, one of those cousins that no one really knew that well, but everyone liked immediately. The kind of woman who could say absolutely nothing at a table and still be the center of it. Blonde, graceful, quick with a smile that made you feel like you'd won something just by making her laugh. I was 31, she was 26, and I told myself I was lucky. Too lucky, maybe. We got married 2 years after we met. No kids. Brittany wasn't sure she wanted them, and I wasn't going to push. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, mostly from home, doing branding packages and social media kits for small businesses and influencers. Said she loved the freedom. She made decent money, enough to cover her half of the bills, and I never really asked too many questions beyond that. That was kind of our thing. I kept my lane, she kept hers. To anyone on the outside, we were the couple you saw at Target on a Sunday morning laughing about cereal brands. Normal. Secure. Relationship goals. Someone wrote under one of her Instagram photos of us at a pumpkin patch last fall. She showed it to me and giggled like it was cute. I didn't realize at the time that those little curated moments were exactly that. Curated. Filtered. Staged. And more for her audience than they were for me. It started small. That's how it always starts, right? You don't just wake up one morning and realize your marriage is built on wet sand. First, it's a missed dinner. A weird laugh at a text you don't get to see. A charger in her purse that doesn't match any of our phones. Harmless things on their own. But together, they start to whisper. And man, I was great at ignoring the whispers. Part of it was pride. I'm not some insecure guy. I don't rifle through drawers or check browser history. I don't ask who's texting. I don't get jealous when she wears tight leggings to Trader Joe's. That's not how I was raised. My dad was a trucker who taught me that real men keep their head down, do the work, and don't whine when life kicks him. So I kept my head down. But there was something. A shift. Like she was living beside me, not with me. A roommate with better cheekbones. Her smile got thinner. Her kisses quicker. She started using words like disconnected and independent time in conversations that felt suspiciously like pre-breakup rehearsals. I asked her once, gently, if we were okay. She said, of course, and then changed the subject to what brand of laundry detergent smelled least offensive. So, I told myself it was a rough patch. That we'd course correct. We'd go on a weekend getaway, drink too much, argue about directions, then laugh about it later. But the weekend never came. Her freelance gigs picked up. She started meeting clients, in person more often. Suddenly, she had a standing Thursday afternoon co-working session at a local cafe with someone named Mel, gender conveniently never clarified. The irony? I didn't suspect anything. Not really. Not at first. Because cheating? That's something that happens in other people's stories. The dramatic kind. The crying in the shower kind. The he found something on her phone kind. I didn't want to live in that story. I liked my stable, boring, 2 cars in the driveway life. So I leaned into denial like it was a weighted blanket. But Brittany was changing. Fast. She started journaling again, something she hadn't done in years. Bought new workout gear. Deleted a bunch of old photos from her phone. Got a second piercing in her left ear and told me it was a mood shift. Said she wanted to feel unapologetically herself. It sounded like the kind of quote you find on a millennial's throw pillow. Then one night, about a month ago, she asked me if I believed people could outgrow each other. We were lying in bed. She was scrolling on her phone. I was half watching a rerun of King of Queens. I said, I think people grow together if they try. She nodded, set her phone down, and said, yeah, that's one way to look at it. That's when the whisper got louder. I started noticing things. Little things that had nowhere to hide once you started really paying attention. Like how she always showered immediately when she got home, even if she had just been at the library. Or how she changed her passwords, every single one of them, for security reasons. And how she got nervous, actually nervous, when I picked her up unexpectedly from the train station one day, instead of her usual Uber ride. I still didn't jump to conclusions. That's not who I am. That's not what we were. But I did start watching. Not snooping. Not spying. Just observing. Because here's the thing. The truth has a way of revealing itself to those patient enough to see it. And as it turned out, I didn't need to check her phone. I didn't need a lipstick on the collar or a suspicious receipt. All I had to do was listen to the echo of our life, the part she forgot to clean up. And in that echo, I'd find the answer. But that's getting ahead of myself. At that point, I was still in Act 1. The part where the husband doesn't know. Where he's still waking up every day, brewing 2 cups of coffee, thinking that marriage is mostly just doing the little things right. Still under the impression that love, once built, stays built. Still under the impression that Brittany was coming home to me. Like I said, stable. And that's what makes the fall so good. Because when you think you're safe, you stop looking for danger. And Brittany? She was counting on that. 3 weeks after Brittany asked me if people could outgrow each other, she started whistling again. That might not sound like much, but trust me, it was. Brittany never whistled. Not even back when things were good. Said it made her feel goofy, and she didn't like how her face looked when she did it. But suddenly she's in the kitchen, air-frying salmon and whistling electric feel like she's starring in a rom-com montage. That's the first moment I knew. Not suspected. Knew. That sound, that light, careless little sound, meant something had changed in her. And it wasn't me that changed it. She wasn't checking her phone nervously anymore. She was back to being sarcastic with me, even playful sometimes. You know that false confidence people get after they think they've gotten away with something? That was Brittany. She thought I was still in the dark, nodding along, microwaving leftovers, sharing Spotify accounts. And that's what gave her the courage to start whistling again. So, I started watching with a different lens. It was never going to be something obvious. Brittany wasn't dumb. She wasn't leaving receipts in her purse or texting shirtless gym dudes at 2 a.m. She was smarter than that. Calculated. The kind of woman who clears her browser history before she even buys a pair of sneakers. And I wasn't going to find anything on her phone. That's rookie stuff. I knew better. Every guy who's been through it knows that once you're checking the phone, you've already lost. Either because you'll find something, or because you're the kind of guy who checks phones. So instead, I started noticing patterns. 1. She started showering in the guest bathroom. Said it was better lighting. That bathroom's like a dentist's office. Fluorescent and sterile. Nobody voluntarily uses it unless they don't want to leave traces. Shampoo residue, water streaks, the smell of your conditioner lingering longer than it should. All of that tells stories if you're careless. Brittany was not careless. 2. She stopped doing laundry at home. Started going to a laundromat because our washer's making weird sounds. That was cute. I installed that washer myself. It purred like a kitten. She never let me come with her, of course. Too boring, she said. Yeah, I bet. And 3. She started printing things. Not a lot. Just now and then. I'd hear the printer at 10 p.m. from the office down the hall. I'd ask her what it was, and she'd say just invoices. But one night, I checked. Not the printouts. Those were long gone. I checked the printer queue. And there it was, a PDF titled Golden Light Meditation, 2-day itinerary. No client. No invoice. No branding proposal. Just Golden Light Meditation, whatever the hell that was. So I Googled it. Took me 2 minutes to find it. It was a transformational couples retreat, about 2 hours away in a town called Yellow Springs. Looked like something out of a Whole Foods employee retreat. Essential oils, trust circles, Reiki, couples massage under sycamore trees. The kind of place where they whisper every sentence and say namaste unironically. What I found most interesting wasn't that Brittany printed it. It was that the retreat was for couples only, and registration was capped at 10 pairs. The website said, please submit both participants' names with your deposit to reserve your space. I didn't confront her. That would have been too easy. I wanted more. Needed more. Because if I was going to confront her, it had to be airtight. No wiggle room. No, it's just a friend. Or, you're being crazy, Liam. I wasn't about to get gaslit in my own house by someone who thought emotional alignment was a valid excuse to cheat. So I waited. The retreat was scheduled for the coming weekend. And right on cue, Thursday night, Brittany told me she had a client branding summit at a creative compound outside the city. Said she'd be back Sunday night, maybe Monday morning if things ran late. Then she leaned over the counter and kissed me on the cheek like we were still normal. That was the moment I made my move. I didn't follow her. That's what movies teach you to do. Follow the car. Stake out the hotel. Snap a photo through binoculars like some deranged PI in cargo shorts. No, I had a better idea. I logged into our shared Dropbox account. She hadn't used it in months. We'd set it up back when we got married to store wedding photos and house documents. Brittany probably forgot it existed, but her MacBook still had it linked. And guess what showed up there Saturday morning? A single, crisp, high-resolution photo. Brittany, lying on a patch of grass next to a guy I'd never seen before. Tall, tan, wearing a beaded necklace and no shirt. Her head on his chest. Both of them barefoot. Laughing. File name. goldenlight_us.jpg. It uploaded automatically from her camera roll. She had no idea it happened. Not yet, anyway. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because I was hurt. I was. But more because I was fascinated. That's the thing about betrayal. It's not just painful. It's interesting. You start replaying every memory in reverse, looking for the moment the shift happened. You start realizing how little you actually knew the person sleeping next to you. I saved the photo. Printed it out. Old school. One clean copy, 8x10, glossy finish. Then I did something I don't usually do. I cleaned the house. Top to bottom. Vacuumed, dusted, polished the floors. Bought fresh flowers. Lit a candle. Made it look like the kind of place you'd want to come home to after a weekend of emotional recentering. Then I set the photo on the kitchen island. Nothing else. Just the photo, face up, in the center. No note. No comment. No drama. Sunday night, she walked in right on time. Hair in a braid. Overnight bag slung across one shoulder. She looked different. Lighter. That's how they always look when they think they've gotten away with it. Then she saw the photo. Stopped cold. Didn't say a word. Just stared at it like it might start speaking. I didn't come out. I stayed in the other room. Just out of sight. I wanted to hear what she'd say, if anything. You can learn a lot from silence. She picked it up. Her footsteps moved toward the hallway. She hovered outside the door for a second. Then knocked, lightly. Liam? She asked, like she wasn't sure who lived here anymore. I didn't answer. She stood there a moment longer. Then I heard her walk away. The door to the bedroom closed softly behind her. She knew. She knew the game was up. And I knew something else, that this wasn't over. Not even close. She didn't say anything the next morning. Not a word. I came into the kitchen at 6:50 a.m., same as always. Brittany was already dressed. Tight black leggings, zip-up jacket, hair pulled back in that high ponytail she wore when she needed to look like she had her life together. She had one hand on her coffee mug, the other resting beside that photo. Still there. Still printed. Still smiling back at her like a confession in high definition. She didn't look up when I walked in. Just stared down at the countertop, tracing the grain of the wood with her finger. Her nails were freshly done. Short, neutral pink. She'd never bothered with manicures before. I guess you get your nails done when someone new is touching your hands. I saw it, she said finally. Her voice was flat. Not sorry. Not defensive. Just like she was reading the weather report. I figured. I replied. Opening the fridge like this was just another Tuesday. Which it was, technically. I pulled out the carton of eggs. Checked the expiration. Cracked 2 into a bowl. She didn't move. You hacked my Dropbox? She asked. That got a laugh out of me. Dropbox? No. You left the door wide open. Synced it to your MacBook. That photo uploaded itself. Don't blame me for what the cloud gave me for free. She flinched, just a little. I could see it in her shoulders. Like she realized just how stupid it was to forget something so basic. So that's it? She asked, voice a little tighter now. You find one picture and assume the worst. I turned to face her, bowl of eggs in hand, whisk still. No. I found a picture, the event brochure, the registration page with your name and his. I found your lie about the branding summit. I found a toothpaste brand in the guest bathroom we've never bought. And I found a return receipt from Lululemon to an address I've never heard of, 2 towns over. Want me to keep going? She looked like she'd been slapped. Not because she didn't know I was right, but because she didn't think I'd be thorough. Brittany had always seen me as simple, predictable, safe. That was part of the deal. Liam, the dependable husband. The guy who folds laundry while watching college football. The guy who believes people when they say they're just tired. She counted on that guy being asleep at the wheel. I was wide awake now. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she said, finally letting go of the mug. It just happened. Another laugh escaped me, louder this time. I dropped the whisk into the bowl and turned off the stove. You don't trip and fall into a transformational couples retreat, Brittany. That's not how gravity works. Her face shifted. Defensive now. Eyes narrowing. You've been distant for months. We haven't connected in a long time. You never asked me how I was doing. You just assumed everything was fine. I stared at her. Because every time I asked, you said fine. Every time I offered something, weekends away, therapy, dinner, you turned it down. Don't rewrite history just because you need a reason to cheat. That one hit. She sat down slowly, folding her hands like she was in a parent-teacher conference. I wasn't looking for this, she said. I tilted my head. What's his name? She hesitated. Brittany. What's his name? Her lips tightened. Derek. Of course it was Derek. It always is. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. She took that silence as a cue to fill it. We met at the co-working space. He's a photographer. We started working on the same project for this influencer thing, and it started with conversations. He listened. He saw me. You haven't seen me in months, Liam. I saw you every day, I said quietly. No, she said, shaking her head. You saw a version of me. The safe, reliable wife. The housekeeper. The errand runner. But Derek, he saw something else. He saw the me I used to be. I walked to the sink, turned on the tap, and rinsed my hands. The faucet ran louder than usual. When I turned back around, I said, so now what? She blinked. Now what? I repeated. You got caught. The lies are out. The photos printed. So what's your next move? Are you leaving? Staying? Do I get a dramatic monologue, or are we skipping to the part where you pack a duffel bag? I don't know, she whispered. That's rich. I didn't think you'd react like this. What calmly? Without screaming? Without throwing plates? I figured if you were going to blow up your life, you should at least see what it looks like when it breaks. That silenced her. I took a breath. Steady. We had a deal, I said finally. Not just marriage. A deal. You wanted to work from home? Fine. You didn't want kids? Fine. You wanted to split bills 50-50? Fine. I said yes to all of it because I believed in the version of you that was standing in front of me. People change, she whispered. Yeah, I said. But not this fast. And not by accident. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Did you sleep with him? I asked. Silence. Don't lie, Brittany. You owe me that much. She looked away. Her voice was almost inaudible. Yes. Was it just the weekend? Another pause. Then, it's been going on for a few months. I nodded. Felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just the dull ache of confirmation. And you weren't going to tell me, I said. She didn't answer. Of course you weren't. You were going to wait. Keep playing house until you figured out if the grass over there was green enough to make it worth it. I didn't want to lose everything, she said, voice cracking. You already did. And that was it. She broke then. Not with tears. Not loudly. Just sank back into the chair like her bones gave out. Like the reality of it hit her all at once. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry, Liam. I nodded. You don't get to be sorry right now. You get to be honest. Maybe later, you can earn sorry. And then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I just grabbed my keys, my wallet, and my laptop. I drove to my brother's house across town. Crashed on his couch. Told him everything. He didn't say much. Just handed me a beer and queued up a game. Sometimes that's enough. I didn't contact Brittany for 3 days. Let the silence do the talking. When I came back home, she was still there. Still wearing that same remorse like a scarf she wasn't sure how to take off. She asked if we could talk. I said no. I had plans. Because while she was out finding herself, I had found something too. A way to end this with the kind of clarity she never gave me. Something sharp, clean, undeniable. She had lit the match. I was going to burn the script. Here's what you need to understand about me. I'm not the yelling type. I don't throw tantrums, I don't smash picture frames, and I don't key cars. I'm not in the business of drama. I'm in the business of follow-through. And Brittany? She underestimated that. She thought I'd unravel. Thought I'd beg. Thought I'd fall into the cliché, late-night texts, emotional pleas, some pathetic display of heartbroken masculinity. But that's not how I operate. I don't react. I prepare. So I spent a week doing just that. First thing I did, took stock. Not just emotionally, legally, financially, logistically. I reviewed every account we shared. Mortgage, utilities, streaming subscriptions, the gym membership I never used, the Spotify family plan she controlled like a dictator. Then I called a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer. Yet, but someone who specialized in contracts and partnerships. Because here's the little detail Brittany forgot. She and I weren't just married. We also owned a small LLC together. 2 years ago, I helped her launch her branding consultancy, Studio Bell. I did the paperwork. I registered the business under both our names because she was worried about tax filings. She used the name Bell because it sounded sleek, clean, and absolutely nothing like Donnelly, which she said sounded too Midwest. Fine. I didn't care. I funded the site, paid for the design tools, and covered the cost of her first client ad campaigns. She called me her silent partner. I was fine being silent. I didn't realize I'd eventually have to be strategic, too. Turns out, the LLC was still split 50-50ths. And she never changed that. So here's what I did. I started with the clients. Through the shared backend she never bothered to secure, I accessed all her client files, every branding deck, every logo draft, every social media schedule she'd preloaded for the quarter. I downloaded everything. Not to steal, just to know. Information is power. And I planned on using it exactly once. Then I logged into the shared Instagram page for Studio Bell. She hadn't changed the password. Rookie mistake. I didn't post anything. That would have been cheap. What I did instead was schedule a post. One post, set to go live the following Monday morning at 9:01 a.m. The post was simple. A quote card. Sleek, modern, white text on a gray background. Just one sentence. Betrayal never comes from enemies. No caption. No hashtags. Just a time bomb. Then I scheduled 5 more. All equally tasteful. All quotes about deception, honesty, and pretending to be someone you're not. I wasn't just aiming for revenge. I was aiming for her brand. And I wasn't done. I called her favorite client, a wellness influencer named Tasha something. You've probably seen her. The type who posts barefoot in fields holding oat milk. I introduced myself, Liam Donnelly, co-owner of Studio Bell. I kept it professional, warm. Told her we'd be restructuring soon. Told her there'd be no disruption to her campaign schedule. And if she had any concerns, she could always reach out directly to me. She was polite, but confused. Oh, I didn't realize you were involved, she said. Yeah, a lot of people didn't. That was the point. Next, I went to the bank. Split our joint checking account down the middle. Froze the business account with a pending hold. Told them there was a legal dispute between the business partners. Used the right language. No emotion. No drama. Just facts. And then I bought something. Nothing flashy. Just a modest full-page ad in the quarterly Chamber of Commerce newsletter. Something every local business in our area receives. The ad. A photo of Studio Bell's logo at the top. Below it, currently undergoing leadership restructuring. For inquiries, contact Liam Donnelly, co-founder and partner. I didn't even include her name. And that's when I planned the finale. Saturday night, I invited a few friends over for drinks. Casual. Relaxed. I texted Brittany earlier that day. Hey, I'm having a few people over tonight. Just letting you know, in case you want to be elsewhere. She didn't reply. She showed up around 8 p.m. anyway. Probably thought she'd catch me sulking. Maybe even expected an awkward attempt to win her back. What she walked into was a full living room. My brother, a few close buddies from work, a couple of neighbors, and yes, one woman from accounting named Elise who was actually laughing at my jokes like she meant it. Brittany froze in the doorway, like she expected grief, and walked into a party. Hey, I said, raising my glass. Didn't think you'd be back so soon. She looked around the room, caught sight of Elise, then the wine bottles, then the music, then me. You're throwing a party? She asked. No, I said. Just celebrating a pivot. The room quieted slightly. People sensed something was up. I didn't care. She pulled me aside into the hallway. Her voice dropped into that tight, hiss whisper she used when she was about to lose control. What is this? Are you trying to make me jealous? Nope, I said. Just wanted you to see what it looks like when someone moves on with dignity. She narrowed her eyes. Is this about the Instagram post? I smiled. Oh, you saw that. Liam, that account has clients following it. Correct. Do you have any idea how unprofessional that looks? Absolutely. But not as unprofessional as sleeping with your photographer while your husband funds your website. She was speechless. I stepped past her and walked back into the kitchen. The next morning, she tried to play cleanup. Liam, her text read, "Can we talk before this gets worse?" I didn't answer. Later that afternoon, I received an email from her. She was offering to buy out my share of the LLC. Said it was best for everyone. Offered half of what I put into it. I replied, "Offer declined. We'll discuss a full exit plan with my lawyer next week." She never replied, but she did unschedule all of her upcoming content. A few days later, I transferred full control of the Studio Bell Instagram to her. Deleted the scheduled posts. Removed myself from the admin list. Didn't say a word. Because by then, I'd done what I came to do. I didn't ruin her life. I didn't scream or shame her publicly. I just changed the story. She thought she was the protagonist, the misunderstood woman finding her spark again. What she didn't realize, she was a subplot, and the main character had finally taken the wheel. She asked to meet in public. That's how you know they're not here to confess. They're here to control the optics. You don't suggest a coffee shop for a vulnerable conversation unless you want witnesses. And Brittany always did have a flair for image management. She chose a little place on Main, the kind with expensive croissants and too much exposed brick. I got there 5 minutes early and took the corner booth, more out of instinct than strategy. Old habits die hard. She walked in wearing a navy blazer and ankle boots, hair straightened. That neutral, professional Brittany, expression painted across her face like it was a meeting with a client, not her husband, or ex-husband, or business partner, whatever we were now. She slid into the booth across from me and offered a polite, borderline corporate smile. "Thanks for meeting me. Didn't think I had much of a choice," I said, sipping my coffee. "You said it was urgent." She nodded, taking a breath like she was about to read a script she'd rehearsed in the mirror. "I think we've both handled this with more maturity than most people would have," she began, eyes trained carefully on mine. "I didn't want things to fall apart like this. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. And I'm sorry for how it ended, for how I handled it. I wasn't trying to hurt you." I leaned back in the booth. Let her talk. "But I think we need to stop escalating things." That's what she came for. That sentence. The speech was just the preamble. Escalating. I asked. Interesting word. You lie, cheat, and try to erase me from a business I helped build, and I'm the one escalating. She sighed, carefully. "Liam, I know you're hurt. I get it. But the public posts, the clients calling me confused, the tension with the business, it's not helping either of us." I set my cup down. "It's not helping your image, you mean?" She blinked. "That's not fair." "No, Brittany. What's not fair is you using our marriage like a stepping stone, then treating me like a speed bump when I didn't lay down quietly." She stared at me for a long moment. "I never expected you to fight back like this." I laughed. Not loudly. Just enough to make her uncomfortable. "Of course not. You expected Liam the pushover. Liam the loyal golden retriever. You cheated knowing I wouldn't lose it. You knew I wouldn't scream or go nuclear. You thought that meant you were safe." Her expression hardened. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." We sat there for a moment, the silence thick with things we both knew but wouldn't say. She took a sip of her overpriced chai. "I've started seeing a therapist," she offered, as if that might win her points. "Congratulations. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting. About what I want, who I am, how I got here." "Let me guess," I said. "You're on a journey." She flinched, barely. "I made mistakes," she admitted. "But I also felt unseen, Liam. I felt like I was disappearing in that house." That made me pause. Not because I agreed. Because I remembered all the times I tried. All the times I asked her to talk, to connect, to plan something together. All the times I reached out and she shut me down because she was tired, or stressed, or not in the mood for a conversation right now. "You locked the door from the inside," I said quietly. "I knocked. You just stopped opening it." She looked away. "I'm not trying to fix us," she said finally. "I just want closure." Ah, the classic line. "You don't get to request closure like it's a reservation," I said. "You don't stab someone and then ask them to hold still while you explain why you had to do it." She blinked quickly. That one landed. "I'm not here to be enemies," she said. "I still care about you. Deeply." I chuckled. "You care about me like a museum cares about artifacts." From a distance. Behind glass. Liam. No, I said, cutting her off gently. You want forgiveness, Brittany, but you don't want accountability. You want me to say it's okay, so you can stop feeling guilty. But you don't actually want to look at what you did. Not really. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I leaned forward. You didn't fall in love with someone else. You fell in love with the version of yourself you could be around someone who didn't know your history, who didn't have 7 years of memories with you. Someone who hadn't seen you in sweatpants at 10 p.m. crying because your mom criticized your work again. You wanted a fresh start without having to do the hard work of fixing what was real. She stared at me like I was speaking a language she hadn't heard in years. I finished my coffee. I'm not bitter, I said. I'm clear. There's a difference. She sat back, deflated, not angry, not tearful, just finally seeing the version of me she thought didn't exist. I just wanted to say sorry, she said. You did, I replied. Now what do you want? She hesitated. I'd like to buy you out of the business. I nodded. You mentioned. Still not interested. Liam, come on. No. You don't get to hand me a check like it erases the fact that I helped build your entire client base. That I funded the software and gave you my nights and weekends for 2 years while you chased down almond milk influencers. I want a clean break. Then build something new. Her face went rigid. That control she was so good at, cracking. You're being difficult for the sake of it, she said. No, I said. I'm being fair. For the first time in months, you're hearing a no you can't work around. She started to say something, then stopped. We sat there for another full minute. Then she stood. I guess there's nothing left to say. Seems that way. She looked down at me. And for the first time in all of this, she looked small. Not in size. In stature. Like the script she'd rehearsed didn't get her what she wanted. She turned and walked toward the door. Just before she reached it, I called out. Brittany. She stopped. Someday, when you're in another relationship, maybe with Derek, maybe with someone else, there's going to be a moment when they stop seeing the version of you you want to be. When they see the real one. And I hope, for your sake, you handle it better than you did this time. She didn't turn around. She just walked out. And I sat there in the booth, staring at the empty space where she used to be. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like clarity. And that was enough. The strange thing about endings is they rarely arrive with fanfare. No fireworks. No rainstorms. Just a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, and the quiet thud of a door that doesn't open again. That's how Brittany left my life. Not with a bang. Not with a sob story. Not even with a last-ditch grand gesture. She just faded out. After that final conversation at the coffee shop, she stopped texting. Stopped emailing. I think she realized there was nothing left to salvage. And even if there was, I wasn't about to hand it back in a neat little bow. The house felt bigger without her. Not in a lonely way. More like when you finally take down the Christmas tree and realize you've had less room than you thought for weeks. I rearranged the furniture, not because I had to, but because I wanted to own the space again. I moved the coffee table an inch to the left. Put up a shelf in the entryway. Bought a new shower curtain that didn't match any of the towels she picked out. Tiny rebellions. I didn't throw out her stuff. Not at first. I boxed it up, labeled everything neatly, and stored it in the garage. I figured if she wanted it, she'd ask. She never did. Studio Bell was a different story. We eventually dissolved the business. After a brief legal standoff, she offered a fair buyout, twice the amount she originally pitched, which my lawyer and I had suggested would save her a lot of time and public awkwardness. She paid it. Quietly. No dramatics. She even included a little line in the final paperwork. Thank you for believing in me. I'm sorry for how I ended it. That was the closest thing to real closure I was ever going to get. I took the money and used some of it to finally take a trip I'd put off for years, a solo drive along the Pacific Coast Highway. One of those bucket list things. Just me, a rented Mustang, and 6 playlists I didn't have to compromise on. I ate at diners with sticky menus, took photos of cliffs that looked like postcards, and listened to strangers at bars talk about their lives like I was invisible. It was oddly comforting. Halfway through the trip, I stopped in a little coastal town called Mendocino. Beautiful place. One main street, a bookstore, and a guy selling smoked salmon out of a cooler in front of a surf shop. I stayed 2 nights in a cottage owned by a retired couple who still flirted like high schoolers. One morning, I sat on the porch drinking black coffee from a chipped mug, watching fog roll off the sea, and for the first time since all of it went down, I realized something. I wasn't thinking about her anymore. Not Brittany. Not Derek. Not what she did, or didn't say, or what it all meant. My brain wasn't looping through memories, or playing detective, or rewriting scenes. I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just there, present. That's when I knew I'd made it through. When I got back home, I changed my phone background, deleted old threads, put the final box of her stuff out on the curb with a note, free. It was gone by noon. And life, as it tends to do, kept moving. Work was steady. I got promoted to regional sales director a month later. Not a massive leap, but enough to give me a new office and a reason to buy dress shirts again. Elise, from accounting, started texting me. At first, it was just memes and sarcastic comments about office snacks. Then one day, she invited me to a trivia night. We lost horribly. I walked her to her car afterward. She asked if I wanted to grab dinner the following weekend. I said yes. We've been taking it slow. She knows the story. I told her everything up front. No filters, no edits. She didn't flinch. Just listened. Said she'd been through something not identical, but adjacent. She's kind in a way that isn't performative. She texts back quickly, but not obsessively. She doesn't post every moment to Instagram. She makes me laugh when I least expect it. It's early, but it's good. As for Brittany, I don't know where she is now. Last I heard, she moved to a loft downtown and changed her Instagram bio to something about intentional living. I assume she's still with Derek, or maybe not. I'm not checking. I muted her account and never looked back. Here's the thing people don't tell you. Closure isn't something you get from the other person. It's what happens when you stop looking for it. You stop needing them to admit they were wrong. Stop replaying old arguments like you'll find a missing clue. You just accept that the person you loved made choices you wouldn't, and they don't get to have access to your future just because they were part of your past. I'll never understand how she rationalized what she did. And I don't need to. Because here's what I do know. I was a good husband. I showed up. I supported her dreams. I believed in us until there was no us left. I didn't let bitterness rot me from the inside out. I stood my ground, held my dignity, and I walked away with my head up. That's not nothing. It's everything. So yeah, maybe Brittany found someone who made her feel new again. Maybe she convinced herself that made it okay to torch what we had. Maybe she'll look back one day and wonder if she made a mistake. But that's not my story to carry anymore. Mine ended differently, quieter, stronger, and still very much mine. Subscribe to the channel